Hi, welcome to Bakes and Blenders. I'm Colleen, and today I'm going to be spilling the tea on how to make better cakes and cupcakes. So if you're interested, let's get started. Okay, so we're going to be breaking it down to baking, cupcakes, and cake decorating. I'm going to give you a few tips for each. First up is baking. The flour you use in your cake and cupcake recipes can make a big impact on the final texture. Cake flour has lower protein content, so that's going to give you a softer and lighter cake or cupcake. But it is important to note that some recipes do need all-purpose flour, so if you want to start subbing in some cake flour, make sure to start just a little bit at a time to make sure that it works with your recipe. As you can see here, I've got all-purpose flour and I've got cake flour. The all-purpose flour, it'll tell you right there, 11.7% protein content. But with our cake flour, we've got, it's all down here in the corner, 7.2 to 7.9%. So that's a pretty significant difference. And if you start subbing in cake flour, you'll notice that you have got a softer texture. If you are making chocolate cake or chocolate cupcakes, I recommend using hot coffee or even just a little bit of espresso powder in your cake batter. Using coffee will help give your chocolate a more robust flavor, and if you use hot coffee, the heat will help bloom the cocoa powder for a more intense flavor. It's an easy way to really amp up that flavor, and you won't taste the coffee, trust me. Now, before you even start baking, it can make a huge difference in your cakes and cupcakes if you plan for success. And that starts with mise en place, probably saying that wrong, let me know. Pull out all of your ingredients, all the equipment you're going to need. Measure out your ingredients before you get started. Preheat that oven. There's a lot to do before you even turn on a mixer. So if you feel a little overwhelmed when it comes to baking cakes and cupcakes, I suggest that you grab my cake prep checklist. It's one of the freebies in the Bakes and Blenders resource library. And I believe Ben wants to tell you something about that.
Yep, I love the resource library. It's one of the best things in Bakes and Blenders. I mean, if I could, I would give it a 100-star review.
He's a big fan of all the free PDFs in there that are going to help take your baking to the next level. So go check it out. If you need to subscribe, I'll put a link down below so you can get your free copy.
And if you want to save it in Google Drive, don't forget, you can do it. Even in OneDrive. I don't care.
If you don't have the cake pan that a recipe is calling for, it's okay. It's not the end of the world, I promise. You can use a different sized cake pan. Now, there is always a little bit of guesswork involved when you're changing the size pan, but I've created a nice bake time by pan size chart. It's one of the freebies in the resource library. It gives you a range depending on how much batter you put into the cake pan and the different type of recipe it is. It can be a little more or less, so I gave you a nice range so you can feel confident to try out a different size cake pan and produce a beautiful, delicious cake. Moving on to cupcakes. My #1 tip for cupcakes is to use scoops to portion out your batter. I love using this guy for cookies, but also just a regular size cupcake. It's perfect. You can just scoop your batter, put it into your muffin tin, your cupcake tin, and it's easy, practically no mess, and you'll have the same amount of batter in each tin, in each cavity, which means that your cupcakes are all gonna bake up at the same time. So if you don't have one of these handy guys, or one of these You could always try using a measuring cup to kind of measure out your batter and portion it out. For the mini cupcakes, this will work, but also just a regular tablespoon will work just fine. And I'll put links below to the scoops that I use. Okay, now if you are gonna fill your cupcakes with something super delicious, you could buy a cupcake core, but why waste the money and the kitchen space on something that does one thing? You can use an apple core. This is what I use whenever I fill my cupcakes. If you don't have an apple core, you should get one because they're super handy. But also, you can use the wide end of a piping tip. I find that that creates too big of a cavity in my cupcakes, and so it kind of loses a little bit of its structural integrity, I guess you could say. But it will work. I just prefer to use an apple core. Makes it super easy. I am all about waste not, want not when it comes to, well, everything, but especially baking. So if you're making a cake, but you can't fit all of the batter in your tins, don't overfill your cake pans. What you can do instead is make cupcakes with a little extra. I have these silicone baking cups. They are sturdy enough on their own to stand on just a baking sheet. So if you have enough leftover batter for 1 or 2 cupcakes, that's a great way to use up your leftover batter. You can also turn them into dessert waffles. If you have a waffle maker, just scoop that batter, not too much, but scoop it into your waffle maker and then bake it up and you'll have a delicious cupcake waffle. It's amazing. You'll love it. And now we're going to talk about cake decorating. So it's incredibly important, once you get those cakes out of the oven, make sure that your layers cool completely before you start decorating. If you try to trim those cake layers while they're still warm, they could fall apart, they could get all gross and the texture could get all doughy and gluey and not cool. And then if you try to fill and stack warm cake layers, you are in for one hot mess. Frosting's gonna melt, it's gonna be awful, you're gonna be so sad. Instead, Ben's crying for you.
Yeah.
Instead, let those cake layers cool. I let mine cool in the pan for about 10-15 minutes, and then I turn them on to a cooling rack for anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour. Then I double wrap them and put them in the fridge, usually overnight. I know some bakers will never put a cake in the fridge before it's been frosted, but I find that this works really well for me. Then you can take your cake layers out in a few hours or the next day whenever you're ready to fill and stack, and they will be perfect for stacking and decorating. Another important step in cake decorating is the crumb coat and chill part, okay? I highly recommend doing a crumb coat and then a nice thin layer of frosting over the entire cake. You're still gonna see some cake through it, that's okay. It's not gonna look beautiful, that's okay. And then put it in the fridge. This is going to trap all of those horrible crumbs and keep them locked in place. Once the cake is firm, bring it back out and you can do your final coat of frosting and you won't have to worry about those crumbs. This is especially important if you're making a chocolate cake. For one, the crumbs are super dark, so very obvious to see. For two, I find that my chocolate cakes make more crumbs. It's like they do it on purpose. So don't skip the crumb coat and chill part, okay? Plan and plan again. Cannot stress this enough. I love to sketch out my cakes. Here's a little 4-inch one I did. This is a 5-layer 6-inch cake I drew. I have stacks of cake sketches. Sketch out that cake, get it out of your head and onto paper. This is gonna make it so much easier when it comes time to put your frosting onto the cake and to make that vision become reality. But it's also going to make things quicker because you don't have to keep thinking about it. It's just all right there. I also recommend always having a backup plan because things can go wrong. They just can. And other times while you're working on a cake, you'll realize that you have a better idea now, okay? And it's okay to just go with the flow. Let the cake talk to you. It will tell you what is gonna look right. Now, if you wanna get your hands on these cake sketch templates, you can find just one available in the resource library, or you can also check out my cake sketchbook, which is available for purchase. I'll put links below. There are 10 templates and note pages that you can print off as you need them for different sized cakes and even cupcakes.
Also, the resource library has a print section where, yeah, it works the same way.
Ben's a huge fan of the resource library. I don't know if you can tell. Are you loving this tea? This tea and this tea is pretty awesome. Okay. Ever since I started making cakes, I have strived for those sharp, crisp edges on a cake. I have no idea how to do it at first. It took me a few years to figure it out. Finally got there, more or less. And then I discovered cake discs, acrylic cake discs. These things will change your life. Now, I do have a full step-by-step tutorial. I'll put the link up above, down below, all over, to show you how to use them to get those crisp edges. But trust me, it's going to make your cakes look better, and it makes it so much faster to frost your cakes. It's amazing. I love it. You can get them real cheap, so I highly recommend checking those out. What can make a huge difference in your cakes and cupcakes is having the right tools and the right equipment. Now, I have a full post all about the basics that you need for cake decorating and cake baking. As you can see, I've got quite the little stash. You don't need this many. There's just a handful of tools that you're gonna want so that you can bake cakes and cupcakes and decorate them and make them look amazing. So if you wanna read all about those tools, again, you can check the description box below and I'll throw in some links there. I hope you enjoyed the tea today. I loved having the chance to talk to you about cakes, cupcakes, baking, decorating, all my favorite things. Now, if you are interested in any of the recipes or tools that I mentioned, maybe some of the other resources, I am gonna drop so many links in the description box below, so go down there, check it out. If you're still confused about something or wanna know more, leave a comment, I'll get back to you and we'll figure it out together. Thank you so much for watching today. Happy baking, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!
Hi, it's me, Ben. Now, instead of Mom being here, it's my turn. No, I'm not talking about the tea. No, I'm not. I'm talking about the resource library. Yeah. You probably saw the video. Or maybe you're not. I think the link will be below in the description. I don't know. Yeah, we filmed this right now. And the resource library, the resource library, I cannot talk today. The resource library is all about getting free resources. Now you could use your money on the shop, but the resource library is something where you get free. Now, this is a cool part. The buttons are animated, and when you press download, it doesn't download it. It just brings you to a new website called PDF. I don't know its name, but I'll call it PDF, okay? And that's where you can draw on the PDF and, do the stuff. So, it's really useful. So, when you think your PDF is perfect, you either could print it or download it. Now, if you download it, you probably you want to save it, like in Google Drive or any drive surface, aka cloud surface you use. I put aka because, yeah, there are two names for it. And also subscribe. I have my own channel, and thanks for watching.